Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Stefan Kristensen. He is an academic philosopher and lives in Geneva in Switzerland. Besides that, he has been politically active in the last 20 years in Geneva. Switzerland is one of the few countries where direct democracy rules the state. Among others, he came to Armenia to talk about this specific democracy and how it works. Stefan, first, what is a direct democracy? How does that work?
Hi, first of all, thank you for having me. Well, direct democracy is normally a state where the people is gathered on the village or the town square and votes yes or no to the questions of the new laws or whatever. In Switzerland, there is a system in place since the 19th century that's rather called semi-direct democracy, because we also have elected bodies, parliaments, both at the local, cantonal level and also, of course, on the federal, national level. But then there are a few different instruments that allow the people to say its will on specific questions. And that's a very interesting tool because it keeps the political body alive. And that seems to me very much to the point if we look to Armenia's actual current situation. Well,
we will link that to Armenia later on, but let's focus on Switzerland. Switzerland, as we said, is one of the few states to have adopted this type of democracy. And so far, what are the results? Is it, if we compare with representative democracy, is it working better?
That's a good question. One of the main results, I would say, is the stability. That's a very important aspect of the Swiss system. It means that since the process of adopting a new law or changing a law that's in vigor is very long, because you have to take the will of the people into account, it means that once the law is voted, once it's in force, then it's in force for a long time. It's not like in other representative democracies where the majority change and the majority is tempted to change all the laws that the previous government has made. So that's one very, very, very important thing. Another important result is probably the fact, you can dispute very much, but I would say people are, at least a good proportion, more than half of the people are very much empowered. Their citizenship is something concrete, something real across not just every 4 or 5 years when they elect the parliament, but all through the year. We vote 4 or 5 times a year on various questions. So there's always a chance to have a concrete experience as a citizen and be part of the decisions that are made.
In Europe, most of the countries have a representative democracy, and sometimes they might feel a little bit disparate or maybe not that involved in the politic of their country. But would you say that direct democracy help the average citizen to feel more involved or more engaged?
It does help, yeah, of course. It doesn't happen for everyone. We must say in Switzerland there are not many people participating. The participating percentages are generally low, between 40 and 60%, depending on the question. Perhaps it's not always the same 40 or 50% of the people who participate, but there is a good proportion of people that don't participate, so that's of course a problem. But nevertheless, it's the condition for people to feel and to be really involved. Yeah. And so I would say it's a condition for a society to be empowered and to have a maximum of public participation in the political decision making.
Direct democracy cannot be perfect because it's hard to find a perfect sort of regime, let's say. So what are the risks encountered in a democracy where you let people make direct or semi-direct decisions?
Yeah. Okay, I would say there are different requirements that are met or not in order to make it work in the best possible way. One absolutely essential requirement is information. How does the right information get to the citizens so their choice to vote yes or no to the given question is the right choice. So they're not misled about the meaning of them. And that's one issue, so that's very much a question about free press and transparency in public decisions and just the ability of the people to rely on the information given by the state about the given question, etc., etc. That's one very important requirement. So there is another one that's related. It's the trust in the state bodies checking the signature, organizing the votes. That's of course essential. There's one other requirement that's very much problematic in Switzerland, and that's the transparency or not in the financing of the voting campaigns and in political life in general. In Switzerland, we don't have any law regulating the financing of the political parties and the voting campaigns. So you can have one rich person putting millions into a voting campaign, covering the whole country with posters and ads in television, etc., and having a huge influence on the voting process in that way, and that's not right. So that can be a problem also. But then, yeah, there are also psychological aspects to this. If people fear to express if people think that their vote will count for nothing, if they're skeptical about the process, then of course it's also an obstacle. But that's, on the other hand, if you have a popular vote, then it's a tool to make people involved. You can tell those kinds of people, but you see, if you participate, then your vote will be counted and you'll have a part in the decision made. Yeah.
So the criteria you just mentioned look very much like what we have in the countries where middle class is larger, which means, in other words, with better wealth distribution, let's say this way. Would you say that direct democracy works better and has better chance of making direct democracy work than in countries such as Armenia, let's say, where the gap between the rich and poor is large and the middle class is small?
It's not an easy question, actually. I don't really know. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a sociologist. My feeling about this is that, first of all, political awareness is not first and foremost tied to how much you earn. You can be a poor person and be also very politically aware and also be able to participate. So I would say it's much more about loneliness. If you're alone and you're not able to share the way you live with other people, with your neighborhood, with your colleagues, etc. If it's, this kind of society, this kind of neoliberal society that we have not only in Armenia but many other places is a major obstacle. And this, of course, has a lot to do with inequalities. And not inequalities as such. In the late 19th century or first half of the 20th century, we had quite a big working class of poor people, but there you had the opportunity to build a political awareness, and we had a general strike in Switzerland in 1918, for example. You could imagine, you wouldn't think that of Switzerland. So people were poor at that time. There were huge inequalities, but nevertheless there was quite a big political awareness also. So, it's a difficult question. No, I wouldn't say that inequality is as such an obstacle. It's more about people talking to each other, being aware of each other's situation, taking their responsibility for the well-being of their neighborhood, of their town, of their village, and that can be done independently of how much you earn, I would say.
Yeah. Also, there is a boom of this kind of democracy, semi-direct, direct, semi-direct democracy, but at a local scale. I think one of the cities there was a Chinese city where they use this kind of democracy, but at a local scale, right? So is there a chance to see one day in Armenia this kind of democracy?
I hope so very much. And I mean, as a Swiss citizen of myself, Armenian origin, when I heard Nikol Pashinyan's speech on August 17, that's the day, perhaps he talked about it before. I don't know, but that's the day I heard about it. He talked about the fact that we needed here tools of direct democracy, etc. I thought that it would be a wonderful way to to make the revolution permanent, in a sense, and to continue to empower people, because this process has just begun a few months ago, and if there are now elections in a few weeks, if the people have no chance to say their word in the next 5 years, it would be sad. Then it would the risk would be great to have like business as usual, perhaps a bit better than before, but this huge energy that has been expressed, that has accumulated in the people, should have the chance to express itself in the coming years also. So and also what I thought was very right, very interesting in his speech is that I think at some point he talked about the fact that it would be a good way to structure the political parties. Because until now, the political parties in Armenia are more gatherings around certain persons, and they don't have a real clear ideological and social profile. But if they have the chance to have internal debates every 3 or 4 months, and then come out to the people and say, oh, we recommend you to vote yes or no to this question. And then you would be able, after a few years, to identify the parties, and they will have a profile. And so it would be also a powerful tool for this huge challenge that there is now in Armenia of structuring, shaping the political field, along with transparent elections and all that. So, yeah, it would be, I mean, I must say, or if I say it in another way, I would be very disappointed if the government would abandon the idea after having come out with it in the past few months.
So direct democracy has nothing to do with culture, cultural, like there isn't any barrier related to your cultural belonging. This is not something more a European thing or something more Western. It's something that anybody can do, can start.
Oh no, I mean, Armenians, as soon as they had a little bit of independence in modern time, already back in 1918, have adopted some kind of democratic institutions, already in the First Republic. It was not a monarchy, it was not a... Yeah. So the idea of public participation, the idea of the people being the sovereign is not something alien to Armenian culture, although there have been very little chance to develop it in reality for obvious reasons in history, Soviet times, whatever. So no. What I said, as I said, the main psychological obstacle is fear and apathy, skepticism. That's still very strong, obviously, of course. So how you overcome also the heritage of totalitarianism, and there are huge issues there. But it's not a cultural question, it's more how you cope with the political heritage that you have. Probably it will be very important for the Armenian society in the next years also to have a look at what happened during Stalinist times, what happened in different phases of the Soviet history, what happened in the last 25 years, and really come to clear with the own political and social history. That's nothing to do with some peculiar culture. It's just the specific history that's been here. You know? And yeah, to give the chance of the people to oppose a law that's voted in parliament, or to give an initiative, to gather signatures to propose a change in the constitution, as the two tools we have in Switzerland. It definitely would be an opportunity to have a vivid and healthy democratic culture to develop. It's just the beginning now.
Thank you very much for this talk.
Thanks to you.
Thank you for watching and continue to follow CivilNet.am.